Thinking of this, Zeke took a deep breath to regain his composure and continued to analyze. All the incidents that happened were constant, as if someone was behind them planning everything. Those incidents were like pushing me to become a demon. At that time, I thought it was just normal bad luck in the world, but if all this was really set up by someone, then disaster is coming. If some bastard uses his power to create demons to serve his plans, this will be interesting. I will definitely not spare him, Zeke thought to himself as he smiled hideously. Time passed quickly. The battle with the assassins had ended and he had failed in his attempt to capture one of them. I wanted to capture at least one attacker and find out the mastermind behind them. But who knew that these guys would self-destruct again? Those bastards, if their goal is what I think it is, then maybe they want to turn Johim into a demon. Things are definitely going to change too much now that I've appeared unexpectedly and helped Johim. Johim becoming a vampire. Zeke stroked his chin, thinking, and remembered the gruesome appearance of his teammate in his previous life. Just thinking about it makes me want to throw up everything I ate. It's best not to let Johim in this life become a vampire like in the previous life, Zeke reminded himself. And just at that moment, Johim approached him and said, "Are you still not asleep? Can I sit with you?" "Of course," Zeke replied with a smile. And so, the two of them sat together in silence. During this time, Zeke turned to look at his teammate again and thought, I still can't understand the reason why he became a vampire. How can someone who suffers from hemophobia be able to use the power called blood manipulation? There must be a reason for that I still don't know, Zeke thought to himself and then said, "You don't look so good." Johim, hearing this, sighed and said, "Actually, I'm thinking about my father. It's been half a year since he fell ill. He's still in a coma and hasn't woken up. I wonder if things would be different if my father recovered. Now my older brother has full control of the family and is doing everything. Because he's the eldest son, so, of course, he has to shoulder that responsibility," Johim said softly, while Zeke next to him had already guessed part of the story because he was actually in a similar situation. But before the two could talk for long, suddenly a subordinate rushed over and said, "Young master, there's an order to return. An epidemic has broken out in Osprin." Johim, hearing this, turned pale and said, "What?" Time passed quickly, switching scenes to the Drackle family's mansion. At this time, Zeke's group also followed Johim here. "I'm back, brother," Johim said, bowing slightly before his pig of an older brother. And this dead pig, seeing this, gritted his teeth and said, "So you're back." And those behind, witnessing the appearance of the two brothers, were endlessly surprised. How can brothers be so different? One looks like he's obese, while the other looks like he's malnourished. In short, both of them look like they're sick. Next, Zeke also looked towards the butler and thought, is the old man next to him the butler? Speaking of Big Brother, at this time he also got to the main issue. "Are you up to date with the situation? I heard there's an epidemic in Osprin. Looks like you just finished work in another village, right? I'm also a tolerant person. I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself. Go and stop the epidemic in Osprin. And don't return to the castle until the epidemic is over. If you let the epidemic spread any further, there will be big trouble. Just thinking about it gives me goosebumps," this guy said, putting on an extremely arrogant face. And this also made Johim so angry that he clenched his fist. But then he regained his composure and replied, "I understand." The next day, Johim's group also began to survey the surrounding situation. "What's the situation?" Johim asked, and the knight under his command, hearing this, began to report, "The areas where patients have been found have been sealed off. Entry and exit to the village have been tightly controlled. The total number of deaths as of yesterday is 60. According to the doctor who examined them, it's highly likely that it's malignant disease." Speaking of Zeke, the strangeness of this disease really made him think a lot. It's a common infectious disease. Something's quite strange. There are different kinds of infectious diseases in each village. It feels like someone is deliberately doing this. Thinking of this, I remembered something familiar from my previous life. Could it be that bastard has started acting already? A disease that terrified the whole world, demonization. But he's not the kind of person who can easily be infected with demonization and then become a vampire like that. This disease is very different from the epidemics in other villages. Could it be a plan caused by someone else? So that means that guy is somewhere around here. No, there's no other way. I have to take action, Zeke thought to himself. Meanwhile, Johim, on the opposite side, was still stroking his chin, speculating, there aren't as many deaths here as in the previous villages, so there must still be a chance. What about the antidote? The knight, hearing this, stammered, the doctors have tried to develop it, but they have all failed. The doctors believe that it's difficult for anyone to find a cure in the current situation. Johim, hearing this, clicked his tongue in annoyance. But just when he felt it was most difficult to solve, Zeke's voice rang out. "Wait, I can make an antidote for that malignant disease." Next, because there was no other way, everyone had no choice but to agree to let Zeke try to cure them, and of course, our main character wasn't bluffing about this. Before the regression, the epidemic ravaged the world. Scholars worked together to create a cure. At that time, Johim was very interested in the epidemic, so I learned from him. The medicine created at that time was very effective. On this side, Zeke slowly fed the patient the medicine he had just concocted. Is it really effective? Everyone thought to themselves. Then, immediately afterward, they received the answer when the patient in front of them weakly said, "Water, give me water." "It's a success. Now I'll give you a list of the ingredients in the medicine," Zeke said calmly, while the others couldn't believe their eyes. Just a moment ago, they were unconscious, but now they are much better. As for Johim, after hearing this, he also said worriedly, "Is it okay to do that? This malignant disease is really difficult to create a cure for. If you sell this medicine exclusively, you'll make a huge amount of money." Zeke smiled and said, "From the beginning, I didn't care about money, I just want everyone's life to be better." And in response to Zeke's words, Johim could only give him a warm hug. "Zeke, thank you so much, meeting you is the luckiest thing in my life." Over here, Zeke felt a little awkward when he saw him hugging him so tightly. "I know, let's talk about business. This hug is too embarrassing," he said, patting the back of the blood-shy young man. Time passed quickly, and thanks to Zeke's medicine, the epidemic situation was controlled very quickly. "I've created a cure, now is the time to worry about treating everyone," Zeke thought to himself. And whenever things felt like they were going smoothly, sure enough, someone would come to spoil the fun. Just like now, while Zeke was talking to a doctor about the problems of the patients, a loud voice rang out from behind them. "Who is Zeke?" This was the voice of the butler, who was currently bringing some soldiers here. Seeing this, he curiously said, "What's going on?" The butler didn't answer but asked in return, "Are you Zeke? Where did you get the medicine to cure the epidemic?" Zeke, on the opposite side, secretly assessed this man. His way of speaking is curt. This is the old man standing next to him, right? Knowing that I created the medicine, he immediately wanted to meet me. No way, could this old man be sick? I have to check, Zeke thought to himself. Then, the two of them had a private conversation inside a tent. At this time, the butler arrogantly said to him, "I want to ask you where you got the medicine to cure the disease." "I've already said, I saw it inside a book," Zeke calmly replied, but of course, this didn't satisfy the butler. "You think I'll believe that?" he said, staring at Zeke, and then, to put pressure on him, this guy slammed the table and shouted, "Hey, tell the truth, what book was it?" Zeke, upon hearing this, continued to bluff, I read that book a long time ago, so I don't remember." The butler, hearing this, eagerly said, "Then did that book talk about other infectious diseases?" The book only talked about how to treat malignant diseases. On the opposite side, the butler, after hearing this, was a little silent and prepared to say something. But before he could, Johim rushed in from outside and shouted, "Salam, what are you doing? This is very rude to the person who saved the lives of the people of Osprin." The butler almost ignored his words and calmly said, "I'll take my leave now." After speaking, this rude fellow immediately left, and this also made Zeke a little uncomfortable, just leaving like that without saying anything. Turning to the young man Johim, after seeing Salam's attitude, he didn't dare to do anything but sigh and turn to apologize to Zeke. "I'm sorry, Zeke, my family member has bothered you again. It's okay, I've met him at the castle too." "You know him, I remember I once saw him standing next to the eldest son," Zeke calmly replied. At this time, Johim also explained the origin of the rude butler, that Salam, the butler of our family. Originally, he was the commander of our family's night squad. But later, because he was injured, he had to retire. My father brought him back to be the butler. Zeke, hearing this, was a little confused and asked, "Why is he so upset with me?" "Perhaps it's because of the medicine you created. He came here because he's afraid that my power will exceed the limit." "Salam is my brother's ally," Johim laughed awkwardly. Meanwhile, Zeke continued to think, looking at the way he cares about the medicine, it's possible that he's also sick. I don't know the reason why Johim appeared in the middle of all this. Turning to Johim, he remembered something and introduced, "Oh, I heard that you're short of manpower to treat the disease. Someone wants to help us, so I brought her here to introduce her to you, Ms. Vargot," according to his words. Then, a beautifully dressed girl began to lift the curtain and step inside. "This is Greta Vargot, the owner of the Vargot Trading Company." Next, she smiled and introduced herself, "My name is Greta Vargot." Zeke hurriedly replied, "I'm Zeke." After speaking, he looked at the outfit this girl was wearing and wondered, wow, she's really beautiful, but why is she wearing morning clothes? And while General Zeke was still wondering, Johim spoke up, "Ms. Vargot is the owner of the Vargot Trading Company. They are very concerned about the epidemic and have contributed a lot to the research. Because she also knows a lot about infectious diseases, she will definitely be helpful in the current situation. Okay, Zeke happily agreed. Ms. Vargot, seeing this, asked, I think you won't have enough medicine, so I brought some with me. Can I learn how to create the cure? Because you are very knowledgeable about infectious diseases, I think I still have a lot to learn from you, Zeke said. Then the two of them whispered and discussed it. The treatment isn't anything special, just this and that. The spread of these kinds of diseases is mostly through water sources like wells, so we need to prevent that to avoid the spread. You're really good, you're much better. Turning to Han and looking at the pink atmosphere in front of him, he made some guesses and said to Snock beside him, I'm probably not the only one who finds the atmosphere a bit strange, right? Anyone who sees them would think they're lovers, just listen and know. Okay, yeah, Snock quickly nodded and said. As for Vargot, she picked up a herb and said, do you know anything about this herb? It seems to be good for people with colds. Zeke, you're so knowledgeable, I still have a lot to learn from you. Your knowledge is also very broad, Zeke complimented. Well, over here, Vargot started to reminisce a bit about the past and said, at first, I was only interested in infectious diseases because of my family, but I didn't expect I'd go this far. Does your family study infectious diseases? Zeke asked, puzzled. No, that's not it, Vargot quickly said. Then she bit her lip tightly, as if making a decision, and proposed. If you agree, I want to introduce you to my family, would you be willing to come with me? When Zeke heard this, his face went blank. Time passed quickly, and in the evening, in Father Johim's bedroom. At this moment, someone poured a purple liquid into his mouth. Just looking at it, you could tell it was toxic. And sure enough, as soon as he finished drinking it, he frowned and his whole body trembled. And the one who did it was none other than the butler, Salam. After poisoning his patriarch, he said coldly, Sir, this is your karma. Back to after accepting Vargot's offer, she led him to a cemetery, which made our protagonist very curious. She said she would introduce me to her family, but why are we going to a cemetery? Zeke thought as he turned his head to look around. Meanwhile, Vargot looked at the two tombstones in front of her and said sadly, This is my family, they all died from the epidemic. That's why I care so much about infectious diseases, because I don't want anyone else to lose their loved ones to epidemics like I did. So you're wearing mourning clothes for your deceased loved ones? Zeke asked, and Vargot bluntly admitted, yes, I swore I would. When all kinds of epidemics disappear, I will take off these mourning clothes. That's why I wanted to bring you here to meet my husband and child, at least now you've found a way to cure one kind of infectious disease. Saying this, Vargot realized that she seemed to have said a little too much, so she became flustered. It seems like I've said too much, let's go back now, let's work together to destroy the malignant disease. After speaking, the girl turned around and left immediately. But at this moment, he looked at her with suspicious eyes. Did her family really die from the epidemic? Time passed quickly. The next morning, Han and Snock looked at him with very strange expressions. This made Zeke feel a bit uneasy, so he asked, Is something wrong? If you have something to say it quickly. Han smiled and said, Zeke, are you sure that you and Ms. Vargot don't have anything going on? Snock added, the other soldiers all think you two are in love. On the opposite side, Zeke was surprised and asked, so what would you do if that were true? Wait, is it really true? The two of them said in shock. But immediately after, Han understood the problem and muttered, thinking about it, what man wouldn't like such a beautiful woman? Zeke is also a man, I thought he was gay before. Han said this innocently, not knowing that these words had really angered Zeke behind him, and as a result, he took a punch to the head. Looking back, Han's words made him think a bit. A couple, I guess everyone misunderstood. I went everywhere with Vargot to observe her, so that's why there are rumors like that. She appeared out of nowhere when I found a cure for the malignant disease. And she's also knowledgeable about various epidemics. I guess it's possible that she also has an infectious disease, but she seems even more suspicious than that guy Salam, but she hasn't shown any signs of being a demon yet, so I'll keep observing her. If I had known this was going to happen, would have asked Gren Zennard before I died. Before the regression, the only person who knew about him was the one who eradicated the epidemic. Zeke thought to himself, but at that moment, Johim's panicked voice rang out from behind him, Zeke, Lady Vargot has been arrested at the castle. Huh? Why? Zeke asked, puzzled, and Johim then stated his guess. I think they arrested her to check the patriarch's medical condition, but I'm planning to go to the castle now to check the exact details. On the opposite side, Zeke heard this and made a connection. Lady Vargot, an important figure in the work of treating infectious diseases, has been arrested. Could it be that there's an epidemic in that castle? It's definitely that guy Salam. Thinking of this, Zeke immediately spoke up and suggested, I'll go with you. And in response to Zeke's words, Johim immediately refused. No, Zeke, you stay here. Without you, there will be no one to monitor the patients. Moreover, this is my family's business. If Lady Vargot was arrested for some nefarious purpose, I will definitely bring her back safely and resolve the issue with my big brother. Johim said with a resolute voice, and Zeke, seeing this, agreed and didn't forget to instruct. Then I'll stay here and wait for news, but if anything happens, contact us immediately, Zeke said, grabbing his teammate's hand tightly. Scene changed to the butler, Salam, who is now reading some kind of document. Then suddenly a soldier from behind announced, Salam, the young master is looking for you. It'll be difficult to serve the young master tonight, Salam mumbled. Time quickly passed, and a few days later, Zeke's group was standing in front of an abandoned building. Zeke, this is the only building left. I don't know if there are any villagers here anymore, it looks like a haunted castle, Han and Snock said, frightened. Zeke, meanwhile, looked at the building, reflecting on the events of the past few days. Bad news, Zeke, people are saying that an infectious disease with the same symptoms as this one has spread to a nearby village. Is this virus going to break out again? I need someone with medical knowledge to go there and check it out. That's what Johim requested, the soldier said calmly. Zeke, on the other side, cheerfully replied, all right, I'll go there and check it out, but, did he still get to the castle safely? Zeke said, staring ahead. The soldier, after hearing his question, was a little startled. But immediately after, he smiled and said, well, then I hope you stay healthy and return to the village quickly. Back to reality, Zeke had already guessed that something bad had happened to Johim. Johim had been at the castle for a few days now. It seems like they won't leave Johim alone unless they meet me. Thinking this, he slowly opened the door to the building. And the scene inside really scared Han and Snock to death. Because, according to their eyes, countless sick people of unknown life and death were lying all over the floor. But before the group could think much, a loud shout came from the front. Who are you? You can't come in here. Zeke, hearing this, calmly explained, I came to investigate the epidemic. Oh, you're a doctor, I didn't know. The situation here is hard to explain, let's go to that room first, he said, pointing to the room behind him. Meanwhile, Zeke, in the back, had grasped everything. I understand the situation roughly. After saying that, for some reason, Zeke immediately used magic to control his sword, and aimed it directly at the young man in front of him. This terrified Han and the others. Zeke, what are you doing? But before the young man Han could shout a few sentences, the man in black in front seemed to know he had been exposed, so he gritted his teeth and knocked away Zeke's sword. And right after that, this guy, not knowing whether he was living or dying, directly grabbed a knife and rushed to attack him. And the result was not surprising at all. Zeke, with just one sword stroke, sent this guy's head flying. Speaking of Snock, just a few seconds ago everyone was still happily chatting, but a few seconds later they were engaged in a bloody fight, which made it impossible for him to understand, what's going on, what's happening. Zeke, hearing this, enlightened the inexperienced young man, you still don't understand. After saying that, Zeke also controlled his sword and launched it straight towards the door in front, causing it to shatter into many pieces. And the person inside the room was none other than Salam, who had been waiting. It seemed like they had planned to trap our protagonist. And Zeke, after seeing this butler, said coldly, don't even try to play stupid tricks, I'm not a fool who easily falls into your trap. Then, he clenched his sword in his hand and instructed the two people behind him, everyone, prepare to fight. Meanwhile, the butler in front frowned, and then ordered the subordinates behind him, what an impudent guy. Everyone, go and take care of him, he said, pointing straight ahead, and following the orders of their master, the hounds began to rush up like crazy. But unfortunately, these guys are all talk but have little ability, with just a few simple sword strokes. Zeke's group was able to easily send these nonsense guys to their death. But during the fight, they also realized the identity of these people. These are the residents of the town. I guess they were threatened by him. Just looking at his appearance and actions, he must have caught the infectious disease. He's using the townspeople who have no fighting skills as a shield for himself. What an evil guy, he sacrificed the townspeople just to protect himself. Thinking of this, Zeke turned back and said to Han and Snock, you can't kill those who aren't assassins. What, you can't kill them? Snock thought to himself, but while this young man was still surprised. Han next to him did a great job, immediately twisting a guy's arm behind his back and said happily, Zeke, is this enough? You just need to knock him out, Zeke said wearily. Meanwhile, Han was even more surprised. Oh my god, he's actually doing what Zeke said. They don't kill ordinary people, but there's no time to think anymore. Now that old man is at a disadvantage, it's time to take the next step. Turning back to Zeke, he had already taken down all the small fries. In front, the butler named Salam. Seeing this, he could only grit his teeth and shout angrily, Crowbet, get out here now. And following his words, there was a heavy footstep, and the owner of this sound was a large, blue-skinned man who looked incredibly muscular. Just looking at this terrifying figure was enough to make Han and Snock turn pale with fear. Meanwhile, the appearance of this blue-skinned man also reminded Zeke of some memories. Although he had never seen the face of the person who created the plague, he definitely remembered that this monster had appeared in his previous life. Proving that this old man is the one who created the plague or is related to it will be a bit difficult to deal with him, Zeke thought to himself. At the same time, Snock, who was behind him, pointed forward in fear and reminded him, "Watch out, Zeke, he's charging." According to his eyes, this time the big guy started carrying weapons straight towards the group like a tank. Just like that, the battle began, and as Zeke predicted, this big guy really made him feel a bit indigestible. With every swing of the axe, he could easily push Zeke back. Damn it. It's like dealing with a boulder, how annoying, he thought, grinding his teeth. Meanwhile, the butler Salam, seeing this from behind, laughed, as if he had won. Haha, how about it? Crowbet is strong, right? Back to the battle. This time, he concentrated all his strength into his palms and swung his sword forward powerfully, temporarily pushing Crowbet back. But the big guy Crowbet also reacted very quickly. Immediately after that, he managed to regain his balance. Then he slammed his axe forward with great force, causing the floor to break into countless pieces. Fortunately, Zeke managed to jump back in time to dodge. Next, Zeke also took the opportunity when this big guy didn't have time to regain his posture, and immediately took momentum to rush straight towards him from behind, and gave this Crowbet a horizontal slash. But unfortunately, as soon as his sword collided with the blue-skinned man's biceps, it immediately rang out with the sound of metal clashing against each other, and his sword couldn't even scratch this body a little. Meanwhile, in the back, Han and Snock were also struggling to resist the attack of the rest of the group. If this goes on, it won't be good. I'm going to run out of energy soon. If I keep fighting like this, I'll definitely lose a lot of magic. But I can't handle it either, so if I resonate my magic, the lack of magic will be compensated by physical strength. I just need to find an opportunity, Zeke thought as he wrapped his sword in magic. Next, he also closed in on Crowbet, while dodging this guy's axe swing. It's time. This mumbled, and immediately he pierced his sword into Crowbet's chest when he had just attacked. And to make sure this big guy goes die, while Zeke's sword was still stuck in Crowbet's chest, he also used a special technique called the Spiral Storm, which caused magic to explode violently and devastate the blue-skinned man's body from within. As for the butler Salam, he couldn't maintain his smiling appearance anymore. This guy, what is he doing? Salam said worriedly. But before he could think much, the stream of magic released from Zeke's sword created a vortex, flying straight towards Crowbet, causing his body to be torn into pieces in an instant. While the guy Salam sat down on the ground and looked mindlessly at the scene in front of him, when the entire floor of the building had been blown away before Zeke's attack. Speaking of Zeke, he also slowly retracted his sword and said, "Is it you, the culprit who spread the plague? Looking at the weapons of the assassins under your command, they are exactly the same as those who kidnapped Snock. What is your relationship with the man in the black cloak?" Salam heard this and gritted his teeth and said, "Why should I tell you? What I'm doing is punishment for them." "Punishment? Yes, just a little more and the Drackle family would be over. It's because of you that my plan was ruined. I should have dealt with you first," he said, his face becoming extremely fierce. Then this guy took out a bottle of medicine from his pocket, and continued to boast, "But it doesn't matter, now it's no use even if you escape from here, because the plan taking place at the chief's castle has succeeded." After saying this guy threw the bottle in his hand down forcefully, causing it to create a cloud of smoke that obscured everyone's vision. Han and Snock, seeing this, were afraid that it was poisonous gas, so they hurriedly covered their mouths. But Zeke immediately explained to them, "It's just a smoke bomb, don't be afraid." Han, seeing this, immediately spoke up and asked, "Do we need to chase after him?" "No need, they've already taken the castle," Zeke said calmly. Meanwhile, the young man Johim, who had loudly proclaimed that he would take care of everything, is currently imprisoned in jail. Back to Zeke's group, this time he spoke up, "We need to go to the Lord's castle right away." "Yes, sir," the two of them quickly replied. "I guess the number of cards has been transferred," Zeke thought as he looked towards the corpses lying below. And accidentally, he discovered that there was a certain sign on the earlobes of the side below. Cut to the dungeon of Drackle Castle. This time the young man Johim is also cursing his big brother, Bjorn Drackle. "How dare you put me in jail? How did they take the Lord's castle? Yet I confidently proclaimed that I would bring back Madame Vargot. It's really miserable, now I can't even protect my own life." Johim discourages thinking, but also right now a voice rang out from outside, "Johim, you have worked hard." Johim heard this, his face turned serious. looking out into the corridor and said, "How dare you step into a dangerous criminal's prison like this?" The mysterious figure outside, seeing Johim's demeanor, didn't hesitate to praise him. "Excellent, even at this hour, your eyes haven't drooped. Stop beating around the bush, get straight to the point," Johim said coldly. Hearing this, the mysterious figure reached into his sleeve and took out something that looked like a devil fruit, then introduced it. "I'm here to help you, this is called a blood vessel, please absorb it. After that, you'll gain immense power. Your big brother, he wants to kill you, use that power to destroy all those who follow his orders." Turning to Johim, even though the mysterious figure's offer was extremely tempting, he remained remarkably alert and refused. "I won't do it. Do you know who I am, telling me to swallow that thing? I'm not stupid enough to listen to someone I don't even know." And his refusal caused the mysterious figure to clench his fist and think, if things had gone according to plan, he should be filled with hatred right now, and willing to swallow the blood vessel for revenge. But is the person who created the cure for the epidemic the reason why Johim isn't as angry as I had predicted? Thinking this, the figure came up with an idea and started to bluster. "To be honest with you, Johim, there's someone behind the scenes who can control infectious diseases at will. Don't you find it strange that infectious diseases suddenly appear continuously? The Lylon epidemic everywhere is his doing. He and your big brother have colluded. Only to kill you. Bjorn Drakel has ravaged the surrounding villages with the pandemic just to kill one person. Of course, Osprey is where the Lord's castle is located, so he only let the weakest epidemic, evilization, break out. That's why he's keeping you locked up here, because if he can't kill you, all his efforts will be in vain. Do you agree now, knowing everything? You still don't change your mind," the figure said, wearing a devilish smile. On this side, Johim clung to the prison bars and gritted his teeth, saying, "Aren't you an ally of my big brother?" Hearing this, the mysterious figure happily replied, "I'm only on his side when necessary, not a permanent ally. Bjorn becoming Count Dracun is only a matter of time before Osprey, no, the whole world turns into hell. You are the only key to changing that, but you don't want to seize this opportunity. I will help you, if you want to save everything. Quickly absorb this blood vessel, Johim Drakel." As he spoke, he brought the devil fruit to Johim's face, and the young Johim was truly wavering. His hand slowly began to reach towards the blood vessel. But just at the moment when everything was about to succeed, Zeke's voice rang out from behind him. "The plan sounds pretty good, but do you want to sell it to me?" On the opposite side, after seeing Zeke appear, the mysterious figure clicked his tongue in annoyance and quickly put away his devil fruit. Meanwhile, Zeke in front was still happily haggling. "I want to know more about this blood vessel. Could you explain it to me in detail? Even if I did, you wouldn't understand anything." "Don't say that, have a little mercy on me. Because of your attack, I've suffered quite a bit of damage," Zeke said with a smile. But the mysterious figure didn't care at all. "I don't care," he said coldly. And this made Zeke a little frustrated. Talking to straightforward people is really boring. The ally of yours I met earlier wasn't so boring to talk to. After meeting your ally, I figured everything out. You guys are an organization that wants to capture some people and turn them into demons, right? And the person who's going to turn into a demon this time is Johim, right? Probably through absorbing the blood vessel in your hand. The more Zeke spoke, the paler the mysterious figure's face became, because he hadn't said anything wrong, he had spoken completely accurately about their plan. "It's come to this, I have no other choice," he clenched his fist and thought, while Zeke's eyes in front gradually became colder. "He's really tight-lipped. Maybe I can't get anything more out of this guy, maybe I should just let him die," he thought to himself. But before he could act, incessant noises rang out from behind the group. Seeing this, the mysterious figure was overjoyed. "You guys just wait here to die," he thought happily, while Zeke, who was imprisoned inside, had a slight suspicion that it was Bjorn's reinforcements. But unfortunately, completely contrary to the thoughts of these two people, the people who arrived were Han's group. As soon as he stepped inside, he said loudly, "Zeke, we've taken control of the entire castle and prison." On this side, the mysterious figure who had been overjoyed just now, his face now looked like he had been bitten by a dog. On the opposite side, seeing this, Zeke didn't forget to tease him. "What's wrong? Looks like you wasted your time. Things didn't go the way you wanted, did they?" "What's wrong? Wasn't the short-lived hope at the last minute sweet?" Zeke said with a gleeful look. As for the mysterious figure, by this point he knew that he couldn't expect anything from reinforcements, so he immediately turned around and ran. But how could he escape this entire group of people? As soon as he turned around, Zeke turned to Snock and said, "Snock. Do it." Snock on this side, hearing this, immediately used his skill, and caused countless rocks and stones above the ceiling to collapse, crushing the mysterious figure, his fate unknown. It's just a pity whether that blood vessel devil fruit was crushed as badly as he was. "That's terrifying," Zeke said as he looked at the pile of rubble in front. And a close knight of Johim said in a panic, Lord Johim. But he was worrying a bit too much, because Snock had anticipated this, so he had created a stone golem to protect the blood-fearing youth. Well done, Snock. Zeke praised him, and then turned to look at Johim and asked, Are you all right? I'm fine, luckily, I wasn't hurt anywhere, Johim replied calmly. Seeing this, Zeke immediately suggested, Then let's go. Hearing this, Johim said, Now I want to punish my big brother, who is the mastermind behind this. Alright, but is Bjorn Drackle really the mastermind? Zeke said. Then the whole group quickly moved to the Lord's room. But at this moment also look at Johim and think first. When I regressed I never saw how he commanded Johim army. If it weren't for this disease, the position of heir would have belonged to him then. And just as the main character was thinking this, they had already arrived at the Lord's office and encountered the butler Salam inside. Salam, why are you here? Where's big brother? Johim shouted. Meanwhile this butler, seeing himself surrounded, could still calmly smile and say, You appearing here means that idiot has failed. You're still alive and helping Johim. On the opposite side, Johim at this time also began to guess what was going on and said, Salam, are you behind everything? Are you the culprit who caused the Lylon plague? Only now do you realize it. That's right, it was me who did it, and it was also the reason why your father got sick. All of that was because I wanted to take revenge on your family, Salam said while laughing maniacally. But this also made Johim a little confused. Revenge, but Mrs. Vargot has nothing to do with this. Where is she? On this side after hearing this, also replaced Salam to explain, That's not the case young master. He's not the real mastermind, the real culprit who made Lylon plague is. But before he could finish his sentence, a voice rang out from behind the group. Sure enough, just as Salam predicted, You're still not dead, Zeke, this voice is Vargot's. Next to Johim after seeing her appearance, also turned around in a daze and said with that the real culprit you're talking about is. That's right, Mrs. Vargot is the mastermind who made the Lylon disease. And Salam is a subordinate of Mrs. Vargot. Johim hearing this could not restrain his anger and shouted, How can you repay my father's kindness with revenge? What is going on, Salam? Salam on the opposite side heard this and shouted, Johim Drackle, do you know what your father did when he had the power of the Lord? 10 years ago there was an epidemic outbreak in Osprin. Your father did everything to prevent this epidemic. And it really worked, but soon after, because of that, he had to shoulder a huge debt. Your father had to endure pressure from the burden of money. So he started looking for the people he owed money to and infecting them with the plague. How can that be? My father is not that kind of person, Johim said in confusion. And on this side Salam continued to tell the story. Many people trusted him so they lent him a large sum of money so that in the end they had to die from the disease. My only friend, the husband of Mrs. Vargot, also became his victim. So I decided to punish your family along with the wife of my dead friend, Mrs. Vargot. After saying that, Salam immediately got into a ready position to attack. But before he could act, Zeke on the opposite side yawned boredly and said, This is nonsense, old man, if you want revenge you have to think, the innocent villagers have no grudges against you, why did you harm them? As you said, just punish the Drackle family, because the villagers are the fools who praised Count Drackle without knowing anything, that is their crime, Salam coldly replied and. This sentence of his also made Zeke almost die of laughter. In my opinion, you are no different from him. On the opposite side, the old man Salam heard this and his face darkened. And began to go crazy. What do you know? What do people like you know that dare to judge me? He said while gathering energy into the sword and directly rushed up to attack like a mad dog. Zeke seeing this immediately slightly hunched over and assumed a fighting stance. But before Salam could touch him, Zeke looked blankly ahead. When the butler was stabbed in the back by the person he trusted. And until it was about to log out, he was still confused as to why she did this to me. Vargot hearing this said coldly, Perhaps you misunderstood. I'm not taking revenge Salam, I simply want as many people as possible to get the disease. Is there any other reason besides revenge? Zeke asked curiously. And Mrs. Vargot at this time slowly explained, Of course, until my family contracted an infectious disease, I knew the reason. Everything happened so suddenly, my husband and children were fine yesterday, but today they suddenly had a high fever and vomited blood. Because it is very easy Lylon so even the doctor does not want to get close, I endured the fear of being Lylon disease while taking care of my husband and children. Because I love them very much, I looked at them dozens of hundreds of times every day. Looking at those faces that were getting thinner and greener, an idea suddenly appeared in my head. How beautiful are the faces of those who died from the epidemic. I secretly thank Count Dracula for helping me see such great beauty, Vargot said, revealing a very excited face. But the soldiers on the opposite side could no longer bear to listen, they couldn't listen to her anymore. "Young master, please give the order, we need to arrest this madwoman. How can she see her dying husband as a source of amusement?" the knight said, gripping his sword tightly, as if waiting for Johim to give a shout to immediately rush up and tear Vargot to pieces. But facing the threat from these people, Lady Vargot could still smile and say, "Haha. Haven't you realized yet? Do you think I would do this without any preparation?" Johim, hearing this, asked in a stern voice, "What kind of devilish trick are you playing? The people infected with the plague in Opran are all infected with a disease called evilization, right?" Vargot said calmly, and Johim, hearing this, guessed something. "Could it be that you took them as hostages? It feels so good to talk to smart people," Vargot said with a smile. "Consider that as an agreement." But Johim on the opposite side still had some doubts. "Who are they?" Hearing this, Vargot also gave a crazed smile and said, "It's all the citizens of Ospran." You infected all of them," Johim said in a daze. "Have you forgotten that my specialty is studying infectious diseases?" Vargot replied with a smile. And this also made Johim helplessly shout, "Damn it." Turning to Vargot, after seeing Johim's expression, she began to get to the main point. "All right, let's negotiate." But before she could finish her sentence, Zeke's cold voice rang out, "That's enough, let's end this now." After speaking, Zeke drew his sword and prepared to finish off the mastermind. And this also made Vargot on the opposite side a little confused and said, "Zeke, I never thought you would be so stupid. You don't believe I did it?" "No, I believe what you said," Zeke replied calmly. And his answer made Vargot even more puzzled. "So you intend to sacrifice all the people of Ospran?" "Yes, if I have to choose, I will accept sacrificing Ospran to kill you," Zeke declared, and this also scared the attendant Han next to him. "Hey Zeke, didn't you want to save everyone? Why are you doing this?" Zeke heard this and turned to look at him and explained, "Yes, because I want to save everyone, that's why I want to deal with Lady Vargot." "But if that's the case, the citizens of Ospran will have to die," Han said anxiously. But in the face of his worry, Zeke gave a blunt answer, "That is an unavoidable sacrifice." "Han, these words may be a bit cruel to you, but people will always face crossroads in making choices. There will be situations like this in the future. If you want to become a warrior, you must make decisions, even if it brings pain. If she escapes, do you think she'll run to the mountains, or will she wander around spreading the plague everywhere? Then the number of people who will have to sacrifice in the future will be many times the citizens of Ospran. Moreover, I said I wanted a good life, but I didn't say that no one would have to sacrifice," Zeke said, pointing his sword forward with determination. Meanwhile, Vargot on the opposite side began to play the emotional card. "In the end, you still want to end me." "That's right," Zeke said with a smile. But at this moment, Johim stepped forward and dissuaded, "Hey Zeke, no matter what, we can't sacrifice the people of Ospran. Don't worry, young master, because the number 5 citizens are safe." Johim was overjoyed after hearing this and said, "Ah, that's how it should be. How could you do such a thing?" But before this guy could be happy for a few seconds, Zeke asked in a serious voice, "But one thing is for sure, if it's between the people and Lady Vargot, you have to think about which side to give up." "What are you saying?" Johim said in surprise, and Zeke on this side slowly explained everything. "There's one thing that wasn't in her plan. That is, the citizens have been treated. Are you okay with that, lady? Isn't the little bit of hope at the last moment sweet?" he said, giving a devilish smile. And his words made Vargot unable to maintain her calm expression. "You're lying, how is that possible?" she said in a panicked voice. And Zeke at this time also began to explain it to her. "The infectious disease caused by the lady will have a red mark appear behind the ear, and the name of this disease seems to be Galdurm. The first time I learned about it was through the people near Ospran that you are controlling. And on the way to the Lord's castle, I witnessed with my own eyes that the villagers of Ospran also had similar red marks behind their ears. So before coming here, I treated them." On the opposite side, Vargot, after hearing this, regained her confidence and asserted, "Even if you know that, you can't treat everyone. The ginseng root contained in the medicine to treat Galdurm is a very precious medicinal herb. You can't have enough medicine to treat all the people of Ospran." Zeke on this side heard her words, wiggled her ear, and said puzzledly, "Ginseng root, I only used helcum. It's a type of purple grass that grows by the roadside, or also known as weeds, so the medicine to treat this disease is not difficult to find at all, it grows a lot." Vargot heard this and lost her composure again and shouted, "You're lying, how can the disease I created be cured with weeds? Do you think you're so great?" Zeke said scornfully, while thinking to himself, "Helcum is very effective in treating the plague." Speaking of Vargot, she had regained some composure at this point and said, "Well, fine, even if you created a medicine, how could you possibly treat all the citizens within half a day?" Zeke, hearing this, smiled and said, "I did it secretly, didn't you know? This medicine is in liquid form and has almost no taste." Vargot, hearing this, remembered her previous words with Zeke and thought about keeping the Lylon disease wide is due to the water source in the Dark Umbrella ruins, as we need to start from there. After speaking, her face turned pale and she thought, could it be? Zeke, seeing this, nodded and said, that's right. I put the medicine down the well. I informed the people there about the plague you were doing to Lylon and created a medicine. Right before arriving at the Lord's castle, and people have confirmed that the red spots disappeared after drinking the medicine. I'm sure everyone has been cured. Of course, I can't say that all the citizens have recovered, but that reason alone is enough for me to kill you. Turning to Vargot, hearing this, she knew she had lost. I didn't expect you to be such a large obstacle. My enemies all think that way, Zeke admitted. Well, then, there's no other way. I didn't want to do this, she said, pulling out a vial of purple liquid. Then, immediately after, she crushed the vial, causing the liquid to begin covering her arm. And then, in the surprised eyes of everyone, Vargot's body was covered in a black mist. And when the mist disappeared, Vargot appeared with a completely different appearance. That's a witch, someone exclaimed in surprise. And soon after, the crowd finally started fighting when Johim ordered, catch that witch immediately. The knights, hearing this, immediately rushed forward without hesitation. Meanwhile, Vargot, on the opposite side, immediately transformed one of her arms into a plant form and thrust it forward. But before this attack of hers, the brown-haired knight could easily swing his sword and cut off this vine arm. Die, you witch, he shouted. But before he could do anything further, his body suddenly stiffened up, and knelt down, to the bewildered eyes of those around him. Vargot, seeing this scene, laughed triumphantly. This is a special kind of blood. Soon, red spots will cover your face, then you will cough up blood and die in pain. Turning to Zeke, after hearing Vargot say that, he was scared stiff. Does this mean that anyone who touches the blood of a sick person will also get infected? Thinking this, he quickly shouted, Johim, we need to evacuate everyone immediately. You too, go out and evacuate everyone from the castle immediately. Johim, hearing this, glanced at his father along with his pig-headed brother, and gritted his teeth as he said, soldiers, evacuate immediately. Knights, fight the witch, but don't touch her blood. Zeke, you also retreat, Johim said, beginning to retreat from the place. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, Vargot saw the group leaving and didn't stop them, instead focusing on Zeke. Oh my, are you planning to face me? She said, controlling her plant arm and launching an attack. Zeke, seeing this, quickly raised his sword horizontally in front of his chest to block the blow. This is a pain. If only there were a mage in this situation, Zeke thought to himself. At the same time, he also started dodging the barrage of attacks coming from Vargot, and this made her feel even more triumphant. Come to think of it, you're a good guard, so this is all you've got. That's nothing. In return, I'll give you a little more spice to fight me, she said, cutting a wound on her own arm, causing blood to flow profusely. Then, she swung her arm forward forcefully, sending countless blood flying straight towards Zeke. But Zeke was very alert. As soon as he saw her do this, he enveloped his sword in mana and slashed forward forcefully, preventing the blood from reaching him. If I come into contact with the blood of someone with the plague, I will get an unknown disease. If I carelessly slash at her, I will definitely get blood on me. Furthermore, if I slash her, she will still be alive and keep fighting. This is not easy at all. The place where I slashed her earlier hasn't recovered. I need to destroy it. Thinking this, he switched his attribute to fire, then directly rushed forward and slashed straight at Vargot's shoulder, causing her to scream in pain. Just like that, her left arm bid farewell to its owner forever. How do you feel, madam? The burning sensation close to the wound, Zeke said with a smile. And on this side, Vargot, after feeling her body, gritted her teeth. Isn't my body supposed to be able to regenerate? But why? She thought, waving her remaining arm to push Zeke backward. But even so, this woman's situation was extremely suffocating. Right now, my body can't regenerate anymore. Do I have to die in this place? Thinking this, Vargot rushed straight towards the window and flew outside. Meanwhile, Zeke quickly chased after her. She wants to escape from the castle. No, I have to deal with her before she gets outside. Only then can I reduce the danger to the people. If the Demon King sees her, he will probably click his tongue, Zeke thought to himself, and continued the chase, while Vargot was running for her life, not forgetting to curse. Damn it, stop following me, get out of here. That rude tone suits you better. Honestly, you're disgusting, Zeke teased. Before long, the two chased each other to the end of the road, and now, Vargot had no way to escape. Seeing this, Zeke coldly said, now, let's end this game of cat and mouse. After saying that, Zeke once again enveloped his sword in fire mana. Seeing this, Vargot hurriedly turned around and proposed, wait, Zeke, let's make a deal. But before she could finish her sentence, a beam of sword light pierced through her chest, causing her body to slowly burn. But the special thing here is that the one who made the move wasn't Zeke. Where did that fire sword come from? Zeke thought to himself, then hurriedly ran over to check. She was dead instantly. Is it magic done by that person? But who is that person? Zeke thought while glancing towards a beautiful figure not far away. Thinking of this, Zeke couldn't suppress his curiosity and asked, "Who are you?" "Is she a mage of the Drackle family?" On the opposite side, hearing Zeke's voice, the mysterious girl slowly stepped out of the shadows, and took off her hood to reveal the face of an extremely beautiful girl. Her beauty was so great that even Zeke felt a little surprised. "Oh, so it's a beauty." But before he could think much, the girl in front spoke. "Zeke Steelwill, is that you?" "You know me?" Zeke asked, pointing at himself. Then he used all his brainpower to think if he had ever met her at a lord's castle. "No way, how could I forget this face?" he said to the mysterious girl. At this time she also lowered her head and muttered, "Never mind, you are not Zeke Steelwill." "Huh, why did the atmosphere suddenly change?" Zeke wondered in his heart and asked, "I thought you knew me." Then the mysterious girl said a very unexpected name, Zeke Moore. And our protagonist, as soon as he heard this name, he immediately rushed to attack without any hesitation. However, his attack was blocked by an energy shield. "It's a magic shield." Then, the white-haired girl expanded this shield, causing Zeke to be pushed back. And at this point, Zeke had some time to calmly think about everything. How does she know my name when I was the Demon King? I don't even exist in this world with that name anymore. Who is she? Should I continue talking or not? What do you think? Zeke then spoke up and asked, "Hey, how did you know that name?" The white-haired girl heard this and remained silent, saying nothing, causing Zeke to feel a little frustrated. I guess she doesn't want to talk. So, thinking of this, Zeke came up with a good idea and said, "If you don't want to answer, would you like to go on a date with me? I'm very interested in you," Zeke said with a smile. And sure enough, this really angered the girl in front. "What a terrible pickup line," she said, creating 4 magic circles around herself and immediately firing streams of magic at Zeke. Seeing this, he hurriedly tilted his head to the side, but the speed of her casting really surprised him. But before Zeke could react, the girl in front started reading some kind of ridiculous incantation, and continuously attacked, causing Zeke to feel numb all over his head. Is she using a shortened chant to reduce the spell execution time? Thinking back, he remembered that she had created a magic shield in an instant, so it was understandable that she could shorten the chant. Zeke thought to himself. While he was thinking randomly, the protagonist was hit by a magic strike across the shin, causing him to frown in pain. "The Alliance leader is gone," Zeke muttered, then turned his face forward and speculated, "She must be a high-level mage, but how can she use high-level magic at this age?" And while he was still guessing, the white-haired girl in front began to use a super-level magic, gathering countless energies together and firing straight ahead, accompanied by countless energy blades. Seeing this, Zeke hurriedly swung his sword like a machine to knock away all of these attacks. Then Zeke jumped straight towards her and prepared to execute a sword slash. But the mage girl was not a pushover. Immediately, she thought of a way to respond. By using a type of magic to create a sturdy stone shield, it was so hard that even Zeke's ghost sword Nana couldn't penetrate it. "She's really good at fighting," Zeke thought, gritting his teeth. And at this moment, the mage girl poured more magical power into the magic stone wall, causing this wall to rush straight forward and blow Zeke away. Then, not giving our protagonist a chance to react, the white-haired girl immediately created a magic fireball and fired straight at him like a rocket. "This is really troublesome," Zeke thought as he saw the fireball rushing towards him, and to deal with this magic, he immediately assumed a stance and hurled his sword straight forward. And the instant the sword struck the fireball, it created a massive explosion, and Zeke's sword shattered into pieces. But at least it diminished the fireball's power, so Zeke focused his magical energy into his right arm, and with a single punch, he sent the magic hurtling back toward its caster. And with the magic being reflected, even the energy shield created by the white-haired girl couldn't withstand its power, and the shattered sword fragments combined with the fireball slightly injured her. "It didn't work. Great, she's pissed," Zeke thought as he saw the white-haired girl's scowling face ahead. And then the girl once again mumbled an incantation. But right in the middle of it, she suddenly paused for a beat in pain. And Zeke instantly seized this moment. But immediately afterward, the girl completed an ultra-level magic spell, creating a massive pillar of ice, aimed straight at Zeke. However, this attack wasn't enough to trouble him. With a single punch, he shattered the entire giant pillar of ice. At the same time, he also had a thought. She just paused for a moment. How strange, a skilled mage would constantly attack the enemy. But why is she hesitating like that? Of course, there were a few times when I first regressed that I did too. But that was because my body hadn't adapted to my battlefield experience yet. But this attack is too precise. And she even knows my name. Wait, could it be? She's also a regressor. That's right, also a regressor, it all makes sense, but her movements are a little strange for someone who's regressed. She doesn't have any damage resistance either. Someone with fighting skills as strong as hers should be used to getting injured. It's hard to put it all into words, but it seems like she's using her body to absorb it. And right at the moment when the battle was partially still going on, Johim's group quickly rushed over and asked, "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" Zeke waved his hand and said, "I'm fine, don't get caught up in this fight, fall back, over there." The knight beside him also saw the charred corpse ahead and spoke up, "Johim, over there." Johim, upon hearing this, hurriedly turned his gaze and shouted, "Zeke, did you kill her?" Our protagonist immediately denied it. "It wasn't me." As he said this, he glanced at the white-haired girl, and Johim immediately caught this glance and asked, "If it wasn't you, was it her?" "That's right, with just one attack, she's a high-level mage." Upon hearing this, the knight stepped forward and bravely said, "I don't know what the situation is, but if she attacked you, then she is our enemy, right?" "Well, of course, oh, no, it's because I attacked her first," Zeke said awkwardly after rethinking everything, which made the knight in front of him completely dumbfounded. Seeing this, Zeke had no choice but to explain, "It's because she was saying some weird things." After saying this, Zeke thought about everything again, realizing that the reason he hit her was only because she knew he was Zeke more. "She even helped me deal with Vargot." And thinking about this, everything became clearer, and he said loudly, "This is my fault, I'm sorry. So tell me your name." On the other side, the white-haired girl, after hearing this, didn't immediately answer but asked in return, "Are they your comrades?" "No." "So they are comrades," the girl said in surprise. "Yes. First of all, thank you for helping me deal with that woman, now this village is at peace." "It should be," but before Zeke could finish his sentence, the girl in front said in a doubtful voice, "No way. You actually care about the villagers, you," turned toward Zeke. After hearing these words, he could finally be certain of his thoughts. "She really does know me from before I regressed." Zeke Moore, the demon lord, and while they were both growling and sizing each other up, this knight suddenly shouted, "How dare you be disrespectful to Osprey's hero like that?" The white-haired girl, hearing this, said in a daze, "Osprey's hero, him. That's right, Lord Zeke helped this village, but how dare you," the knight said with a voice full of resentment. And this also made the girl in front start to doubt her own thoughts. "Are you really Zeke? What's your last name? Does that matter? I'm just Zeke. I don't know how well you understand me, but the image of me in your heart isn't the me in real life," Zeke said calmly, while telling himself, "The me now isn't Zeke Steelwill or more." Turning to face the other side, the white-haired girl, after a moment of silence, then muttered, "That's not right, it can't be that different," and this strange action of hers also fell into Zeke's eyes. "I can't understand what she's saying anymore, the more she talks, the more I feel like I'm wasting time." Thinking of this, Zeke didn't want to waste any more time, so he went straight to the point, "If you don't reveal your identity, we'll consider you an intruder." And before his words, the white-haired girl gently reached out and clenched her necklace. And then immediately afterward, a violent surge of energy erupted from her body, causing everyone to hurriedly cover their eyes. "Heavens, what is that light?" someone cried out. And in the moment when everyone was distracted by the light, this girl disappeared right before their eyes as if she had teleported. Speaking again of Zeke, at this moment he also stepped forward and looked at the magical residue it left behind and speculated, using high-level magic to create items is already terrifying, and then to use the highest-level magic to teleport. How curious, I wonder who she is. Time quickly passed. The next morning, at some giant bell tower, the group was standing and listening to Johim mutter, "My father and brother probably can't go to heaven." The knight next to him, hearing this, agreed and said, "They have to pay for their sins, they must have been prepared to atone for them." Atonement, Johim thought for a moment. Then turned to Zeke and said, "Thank you for coming to the funeral." "Oh, it's nothing," they hurriedly said. And over here, Johim also remembered the incident last night and said regretfully, "We should have sent a group of people to chase after that mage, what a pity." "It's okay, she used an item to escape, so we couldn't have chased after her anyway," Zeke said calmly. At the same time, he was also considering his next plan. "It seems like she knows who I was in the past, I have to investigate." Speaking again of Johim, at this moment his eyes were a bit sad and he said, "I heard you're leaving soon." "That's right, we're just passing through here, of course, we have to go." "Are you sure you don't want to work for us? The benefits are guaranteed to be super good," Johim tried to persuade, but he refused immediately, "No thanks. I don't like being tied down in one place," and you can still handle things without me here, he said with a smile. But Johim didn't think so. No, if it weren't for you, Osprey would have fallen into danger. I can endure the bloodshed on the battlefield, but when it's all over, I'll pass out immediately. The Count of the Dracal territory is afraid of blood. How pathetic, isn't it? Johim said dejectedly. And before his words, Zeke reached into the bag at his side and took out the devil fruit from before, and asked, Johim, would you like to try this? And over here, Johim, after seeing the devil fruit, said in a daze, isn't that the artifact inside the prison cell? Zeke, hearing this, nodded and said, I picked it up from the wreckage. One day, your fear of blood will be an obstacle for you on your path to becoming the Lord of the Dracal House. You'll need this. The bloodline will help you receive the power of blood. The power of blood doesn't sound too good, does it? Johim muttered. And Zeke also explained the power of this thing. It will help you freely control the blood in your body, but if you become too greedy, it will make you go crazy for blood. Johim, seeing this, his eyes were a bit scared and he said, it would be terrible if I started craving other people's blood. Is there a way to prevent that? Don't worry, if you become a bad person, I'll take you down myself, Zeke said with a confident smile. Time quickly passed, cut to the Lord's office. At this moment Johim's close knight carried a pile of documents in and said, Lord, there are more documents you need to review. Ugh, just leave them there, Johim sighed and said, and the knight, seeing this, asked worriedly, you must be very tired. If it was still the same, I would have been on the altar a long time ago. I never thought I would miss the days when I was still weak. So the bloodline really works. I'm glad to see you gradually getting better. How is the feeling of bloodlust? On the opposite side, Johim, after hearing this, his face became brighter and he said, sometimes I feel a little craving, but it seems to be okay, as long as I don't try to control other people's blood, he said while tearing out a few drops of blood on his hand and controlling them to float in the air. So that's blood manipulation. How interesting, the knight said in surprise. And down below, Johim thought to himself, I've always practiced it thinking there would be a day I would need to use it for self-defense. But I wonder how Zeke could know these things. He never reveals his true identity, the knight said curiously. But Johim didn't pay much attention to this matter. Does that really matter? He saved our town, that's all I need to know. Anyway, Broad, there's something I need to figure out. The mage who attacked Zeke and the black robes who helped Fest, go find them, he said coldly. Back with Zeke, they are currently camping somewhere. And in the meantime, he still couldn't forget about the mage girl from before. Who is that woman, after all? She knew I was Zeke more before my regression. Have I ever met anyone who looks like her before my regression? That skill proficiency, she's on par with the Demon King of Sorcery. The Demon King of Sorcery, like Zeke, he brought terror to this world. He could freely use all kinds of magic. We fought each other a few times, but that old man was a man, and an old one at that. I can't remember who she is at all. How could I forget such a beautiful face? Man, if that woman regressed like me, she must be related to the key to bending fate. Maybe she was the one who implanted that item on me. But anyway, that's just speculation. However, I can't get her face and expression out of my head. Why did she look at me like that? The more Zeke thought about it, the more curious he became. Meanwhile, Han, who was next to him, stuttered. Ah, Mr. Zeke, about what you said last time in the Osprey case, you prioritized dealing with Lady Vargot first, he said, scratching his head. And when Zeke heard that, he immediately understood the problem. You care that much? I see. It's hard to justify such a sacrifice. But let me ask you a question. Do you want to be a hero or a god? Even I, a super genius, can't achieve everything I want, and from the start, that was impossible. It's hard to accept, but you don't need to force yourself when making decisions at first. That will only make things worse. On the other side, Han, after listening, asked, do you really think I can become a hero? And before his question, the main character paused for a moment and then answered. Just do what you want, because you are my subordinate. I will do my best to help you. So there's no way to save more people? Han asked anxiously. There is, you just need to become stronger. So you mean practice more, you idiot, Zeke said with a laugh. Time passed quickly, thus, the journey of the group continued. And while moving, Zeke also didn't forget to train his two teammates. Like now, Snock is facing a pack of wolf monsters. And it seems that after going through many battles, this shy boy has become much braver. Even when facing the monsters, he can still remain calm and wait for the right opportunity. And on the other side, the wolves couldn't stand their hunger and started jumping straight towards him to ask him for some meat, but unfortunately for them, that is, Snock is also waiting for this opportunity, as soon as they jumped into the air. Then Snock used his magic to create sharp stone pillars that pierced straight up from the ground, piercing through the bodies of these ferocious monsters, causing them to faint instantly. After doing this, Snock and Mouse breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, there are still 2 wolf monsters left, however, it seems that they also feel a bit scared, so they don't dare to rush to attack immediately. They are still hesitating, and this is also the opportunity for Han to take action. While they were still hesitating whether to advance or retreat, he secretly approached these monsters from behind and finished them off with just a few blows. After doing this, Han also sat down and panted for breath. Meanwhile, seeing this, Zeke slowly approached and asked if everything was done. Han quickly turned his head and said, "They're definitely dead, but why are there so many monsters here?" Snock nodded and said, "I was wondering the same thing, there's a village over there too." Back with Zeke, after hearing these two say that, he noticed and thought, "It's true that there are a lot of monsters here, could there be something nearby?" Zeke looked down at the corpse under his feet and began to speculate. But at this moment, rustling sounds suddenly rang out in front of the crowd, catching the attention of all 3. Then, from inside the bushes, an old man fully equipped stepped out. It seemed like he had observed the battle of Zeke's group, so he began to suggest, "You guys look strong, can you give me a hand?"